So if you play SMITE, you've probably heard the phrase wards win games before. The truth is, wards do have a significant impact on the game, and today I'm going to teach you how to use them. So let's start off with when you should buy wards. I would recommend that you buy wards pretty much every time that you can after the 5-minute mark. I often see people buying health and mana potions up until 10, 15, even 20 minutes into the game, and not only is this often a waste of money, but it takes away that consumable slot which you could be using for wards. A regular ward costs just as much as a potion, and most of the time it does a lot more good. So now let's start looking at what your goal should be when warding. Keep in mind that wards really do 3 things. They defend against ganks, they spot out enemy rotations, and provide vision over important objectives like Gold Fury, Fire Giant, and Portal Demon. Your goal should not be to provide vision to the enemy at all times, but instead to be able to spot out every single enemy rotation so that you can have a much better understanding of the enemy positions. And that's why wards should be focused on the jungle's intersections. These are locations where enemies coming from multiple directions have to travel through. A ward in one of these spots can give you vision over many different enemy paths. So first up, let's take a look at a setup that provides vision for the whole dual lane side of the map. This setup uses 3 wards and it will spot out ganks and rotations both from the middle lane and the enemy jungle. This also provides vision for the mid to spot out ganks from both the jungler and the support. Setups like these are ideal, but multiple people do need to be warding together for them to work. Each player can only have up to 2 wards on the map at a time, so unless you're queuing with a group, you might have to rely on your randoms to help you out with a setup like this. Next up is a similar setup on the solo lane side. It defends both the solo laner and the middle laner from ganks while providing vision throughout the solo side jungle to spot out rotations from both lanes. Imagine playing a game where you have both of these 3 ward setups going on at the same time. If you're just using regular wards, it's going to cost 300 gold total and last for approximately 3 minutes. If you average that out, it's just 60 gold per player every 3 minutes, and it's providing your entire team with incredibly useful vision of the jungle. Using wards properly like this makes it much harder for the enemy team to gank, and makes it much easier for your team. You're both able to spot out enemy ganks before they occur, and you're able to tell if you're safe to commit to a gank. Now let's look at a few 2 ward setups. These are setups I recommend using to defend your own lane and use some of the same positions as the 3 ward setups. So first up is the dual lane side. This will provide vision around the 2 main points through which enemies will rotate in and out of your lane. The top ward provides vision around the top of Gold Fury and at the purple buff. This is the most important ward because it not only protects you against rotations from the mid, but also from deeper in the enemy jungle near the red buff. The second ward provides vision underneath the Gold Fury and keeps you safe from aggressive rotations from the mid and the jungle. In the middle lane, these 2 ward setups end up coming much more down to game flow. Basically, you've got 5 spots that I recommend warding, and you should use these spots depending on where you're feeling pressure from. If you're looking to aggress, a ward in front of the enemy tower is an effective way of giving your jungler vision of the mid and spotting any rotations out from the mid lane. Other than that, you can ward high and low on both mid camps. I recommend warding high the majority of the time because this is where you're normally going to see the enemy coming from. However, if the enemy team does have a lead, it's generally better to ward at the bottom of the mid camps because you'll need to be playing back anyways. Basically, warding high is more aggressive and more rewarding if you're looking to fight. Warding low is more defensive and better suited for trying to catch up if you're behind or making sure that you get to the late game. Also make sure that you focus your wards on whichever side of the map is most likely to rotate. If you're afraid of ganks from solo and support, ward low on both sides of the mid camps. However, my favorite setup is normally just a high ward on both mid camps, which lets me play much more aggressively and get some vision against the jungler on both sides of the map. The solo lane setup is similar to what I showed on the dual lane side. You're going to want to ward up high near the blue buff and a ward down beneath the Fire Giant. This will give you vision of any ganks coming from both the jungler and the mid laner. Finally, we have a couple of single ward setups. These can be used if your team is already warding around mid and objectives, or if you just have enough money for a single ward. For mid, again, this is just whichever the 5 spots will be most important to you. Over in the dual lane side, we're using this high ward position once again, which spots out enemy rotations through their side of the jungle. This is the most important ward to keep you safe in the dual lane, but a ward on or beneath the Gold Fury will still keep you much safer. Similarly, we have the same type of ward over on the solo lane side, positioned by the blue buff. So now let's go ahead and move on to sentry warding. Now just so you know, sentries will become much more important once you're about a gold or higher level ranked player, just because warding becomes much more common as you play with better players. However, even at lower levels, a sentry ward on Gold Fury is going to be a good idea until you get into the late game. Gold Fury is one of the most important objectives in the early and mid game, which means denying your enemy's vision of it is a significant advantage. As you get into the late game, stop sentrying Gold Fury and start sentrying Fire Giant instead. Portal Demon and Fire Giant are both powerful late game objectives, and you want to make sure that the enemy team is not able to sneak it, while giving your team a chance to sneak it yourselves. Assuming that your enemies are warding, sentries are important in blocking their vision for ganks too. Taking out an enemy ward can make a lane much more vulnerable to ganks and is well worth the 120 gold price of a sentry. Generally, these will be best left up to the support, jungle, and occasionally the mid. Mid camps are an extremely common ward spot, so it does make sense for the middle laner to sentry one of the 4 intersections in order to block enemy vision there. The support will generally focus their sentry wards on objectives, especially the Gold Fury, and securing their team's vision there. Item builds not quite as important for supports, and therefore they should sentry any highly contested spots because they can better afford to go back and buy another sentry if they need to. The jungler should be looking to buy sentries in order to deny enemy vision along important gank paths. This can be especially effective on the dual lane side mid camps and up near the enemy purple buff. Alright everyone, that wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like down below and subscribe for more guides.